we doing, everybody? This is Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert, a NASCAR and racing podcast. On this episode, we preview the Tulsa Shootout, where through several classes, the best dirt racers in the country flock to the inside of the SageNet Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Notable drivers are Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Brexton Busch, Christopher Bell, Brent Crews, Wyatt Miller, Thornton Jr, Briggs Danner, Snyder Jr, Blake Hahn, plus many others all look to duke it out for a coveted Golden Driller trophy. That's not all. Discussions with Dave breaks down all the offseason NASCAR news, paint scheme of the week, NASCAR History Time, plus interview with 9-time Golden Driller winner Blake Hahn, and so much more on this episode of Splash of Gas. As always, we're sponsored by Magical Travel with Dave, aka Disney Dave Weichert, my father. He will be able to help you with all your Disney and Universal vacation needs. He can be reached at DisneyDaveW@Verizon.net. Please make sure you follow all the Splash of Gas social medias for midweek and on-track updates. Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube are all Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert. Now for the Tulsa Shootout preview. The event they call the Mecca of the Micros is ready to go for the 41st time. The 2026 Tulsa Shootout is set to push the limits like it has never done before. The entry closed on the 29th, and the numbers are in. It's the most entries they've ever had in a shootout. Over 2,000 entries between the 6 different classes of micro sprints. Practice on Monday, then right into the racing action starting on Tuesday through the weekend. With a high car count, the qualifiers early in the week will be very important if you're trying to make the 24 car count main event for each model. With the high car counts, F mains will make their way into the lineup for the first time, as well as a last chance qualifier for the Flying A Motorsports Junior Sprints. A total of 433 races are set to be scheduled throughout this week. As an asphalt fan from the Northeast, that is just unthinkable, but they make it happen out there in Tulsa, and we can't wait to watch. The 6 classes of cars that they'll race: Sawyer Chassis Winged Outlaws, Hyper Racing Non-Winged Outlaws, K&B Motorsports Restricted A-Class, JST Motorsports A-Class, Joe's Racing Products Stocked Non-Winged, Flying A Motorsports Junior Sprints. Now for the format of the Tulsa Shootout. The Outlaw, Non-Wing Outlaw, A-Class, and Stock Non-Wing will all follow the below format. The 2 other classes, the Junior Sprints and Restricted A-Class, will follow a similar format. So heat races lined up according to the draw, 9 to 10 cars per heat, passing points in effect. The top 112 in passing points from the heat races advance to the 8 qualifying races, 14 cars in each, with a 4-car inversion, a flip, in effect for each qualifying race. Then the high point driver from the heat races will start 4th in the first qualifier, and so on. Top 32 make the invert, 33rd on back, start 3rd row and back in the qualifiers. Passing points in qualifying races as well. Top 16 in combined passing points from heats and qualifiers advance to Saturday night's A main. Those 17th to 112th in combined passing points locked in to a B main. 113th through 108th after heat races to 8 C mains, 209 to 304, 8 D mains, so on and so forth until we get to the F mains. And even if you have bad luck early, it's a harder battle to get to that main event, but there's still a chance to make it as the top 2 drivers from the F main transfer to the E main, the top 2 drivers from the E main make it into the D main, so on and so forth until the main event, the A main. And the top 8 from the A feature qualifier advance to the championship A main as well. Hope I didn't miss anything in the format when covering these high car count events, shootout, chili bowl. The format can be a little bit confusing than a standard asphalt race at the short track. Nonetheless, thank you for bearing with me. Now for discussions with Dave. More news on the dirt side of things. Kyle Larson is heating up right now. Kyle Larson outlasts Corey Day and claims the high limit international win and the $110,000 grand prize in Perth, Australia. For the second year in a row, Kyle Young Money Larson would head down to the Perth Motor Complex in Australia and conquer the high limit international event. And this one didn't disappoint as well. A lot of action. Big names in addition to Larson, Corey Day, Rico Brew, plus Australia's top dirt drivers looking to defend their turf. But once Larson grabbed that top spot, he was putting that foot to the floor, constantly pushing the limit, flirting with the wall, and somehow finding more speed than others. Lap after lap, he pushed that gap and made it kind of impossible for Corey Day to track him down. There would be a late restart, which would make it exciting, but Day just couldn't do it. He unfortunately pushes it a little bit too much, hits the wall and gets a flat tire, and Kyle Larson, Young Money, 2 years in a row, wins the big prize down under in Australia. Congratulations to Kyle. He might have some jet lag, but can he use this momentum right into Tulsa? We'll find out. Moving right along, we have talked past several years of this show about old tracks being revitalized and brought back to life. We saw that with North Wilkesboro, Rockingham. Now Memphis Motorsports Park is making a comeback. Believe there was a nationwide race or two. They're back in the day, old Busch series, now O'Reilly Auto Parts series, of course. But the IHRA, the International Hot Rod Association, just officially completed the acquisition of the historic motorsports facility in Millington, Tennessee, formerly known as Memphis International Raceway and Memphis Motorsports Park. The closing just happened this past December 23rd. It originally opened in the 80s, and the facility played a huge role in American motorsports history as it hosted major drag racing events and national touring series, and at one point was sanctioned by the IHRA, hosting IHRA-sanctioned races and events. With the property now back under the ownership, the acquisition represents a full circle moment that connects the track's past with the present. Do hope they bring back NASCAR. Nonetheless, even if it is to start for several years to have the drag racing, it's great that an old motorsports complex, one that is historic like Memphis, is brought back. Love to see that. Good job, IHRA. Moving right along in discussions with Dave, talking about the effects of the NASCAR ruling, the effects from the settlement. Charter values may have doubled. Let's get into that. Several NASCAR team investors and industry execs believe that with the settlement in place, charter values could surge overnight. For example, earlier this season, Legacy Motorsports purchased a charter from Rick Ware Racing for $45 million, one of the 36 charters created under the current system, which was introduced in 2016. The charter structure sat at the center of the $365 million antitrust lawsuit that we've all been talking about. The settlement has NASCAR agreeing to implement evergreen provisions. Those changes allow teams to retain their charters indefinitely, provide they continue to meet the specific performance and participation standards that NASCAR has. Also a part of the agreement, teams will receive additional assurances related to international media revenue, governance, and future revenue opportunities. In return, NASCAR will collect higher fees on future charter transactions. Just like we've been saying, there would not have been a winner if either 23XI Front Row Motorsports won or if NASCAR won. This agreement, finding that middle ground, is great and just a good solution to the issue. And now we know more of the bits and pieces of the result of that. Really is interesting to see how that affects the sport directly, and hopefully it's positive. And now, according to Sports Business Journal, nearly every NASCAR race team executive believes that the prices of this charter will climb. Conservative estimates say a little bit more than what they've been recently sold, maybe around $50 million. Others, more optimistic, say charters could grow to 90 or even 100 million. In the end, happy that NASCAR and the teams were able to come to an agreement. Just makes the sport look better. To our fourth and final topic on DWD this episode, Spire Motorsports crew chief and director lineup for 2026. For a little bit of time now, we've known the Cup Series driver lineup for next season for Spire. Their 2 Truck Series seats are still up in the air. We do know the crew chief and race director lineup for next season, and wanted to touch upon that. Starting with Cup Series Director of Competition, Matt McCall. He came from RFK Racing at the conclusion of the 2024 season. Last year, he served as a Director of Vehicle Performance at Spire. While at RFK Racing, he spent the last 3 seasons serving as the crew chief for Brad Keselowski. McCall, the Denver, North Carolina native, is an 11-year veteran crew chief at the Cup Series and has won races not only with Keselowski, but also Kurt Busch. Now for the crew chief lineup on the Cup side, Ryan Sparks will serve as the crew chief for the number 7, which will be run by Daniel Suarez. Sparks is used to wearing multiple different hats at Spire Motorsports. In 2024, he was their competition director, as well as the crew chief for Justin Haley. Last year, he was just focused on the competition director role. Now he is back in the crew chief position. Excited what Ryan can achieve with Suarez behind the wheel this year. Travis Peterson will continue his role as the crew chief of the number 71, with Michael McDowell continuing to be behind the wheel. McDowell's last 2 years at Front Row Motorsports, Peterson was his crew chief and makes the switch with McDowell to Spire. While still at Front Row, the pair went to victory lane at the Indianapolis Road Course in 2023. Excited to see what that pair can do in their second full-time season at Spire. Now to the 77 Cup entry. Luke Lambert enters his 3rd season as the crew chief on this ride. 2024 NASCAR Cup Series Rookie of the Year, Carson Hocevar, will continue to drive. Even though Hocevar, Lambert, and the 77 team were catching a lot of flack this past season, with some taking exception to Hocevar's driving, Carson had a heck of a year, had his chance at couple race wins. For the sport, truly hope he doesn't change his style of driving. I don't think he will. The way things are looking and what Spire has been building at the Cup Series, I think they're very close to getting a win. Now for the Truck Series side of things for Spire, Kevin Bono Mannion will serve as Truck Series Competition Director. He was one of the founding fathers that brought Spire into the Truck Series. He enters his 4th season with the organization. He was just the crew chief for Raja Karuth in the Team 71 entry. Prior to that, Mannion was crew chief for Nick Sanchez and led him to wins at Daytona as well as Charlotte. Bono has been in the sport for a long time and has a heck of a resume. He's a two-time Xfinity Series championship winning crew chief of the Daytona 500 winning team in 2010. Same with the Brickyard 400 that year. He's one of the select crew chiefs to have won races across all three NASCAR series. Very impressive. As mentioned, the driver lineup for the 7 and 77 truck are yet to be decided. What we do know is Brian Patty will serve as the crew chief of the 7 truck, and Chad Walter will serve as the crew chief of the 77. With McCall and Bono running the competition for the Cup, then Truck Series, and all the experience that the 3 Cup crew chiefs have, plus the 2 Truck crew chiefs too, a lot of experience at Spire. Should be an exciting 2026 for that team. That wraps up this episode's edition of Discussions with Dave. Now for trivia question time. If you were paying attention earlier, I mentioned the answer. This episode's question is, in this year's Tulsa Shootout, how many scheduled races are there to take place? Answer coming at the end. Now for Paint Scheme of the Week. For this episode, we're throwing it back to one of Dale Jr.'s famous paint schemes, the throwback Mountain Dew paint scheme. Towards the end of his career, when he was running at Hendrick in the 88, he had a partnership with Mountain Dew. This was the same time Mountain Dew was trying to bring back the original recipe with cane sugar and had the old throwback Mountain Dew logo on the 88. Slick looking car. At that point, the Cup Series, the Chevys were running the Impala SS's, and they had, all the Cup cars had that weird spoiler on the end. And looking at the pictures, just reminiscing of that time. We'll be posting a picture of that car later on my Instagram story. Please check that out. Now for NASCAR History Time. Recent exciting clashes from recent years. If you don't know, the NASCAR Clash is an exhibition race prior to the Daytona 500 each year. Let's look at the Clash first, February 14th, 2015. Matt Kenseth ultimately celebrated in victory lane, but the lasting image from the race came from the chaos that unfolded after the final lap. As the field charged towards the checkered flag, Joey Logano gave Kevin Harvick a shove coming off the corner and sent Harvick into the wall in a dramatic last lap wreck. While Kenseth claimed the win, tempers flared immediately post-race. Harvick would climb from his damaged car and challenge Logano in a tense, heated exchange that added another chapter to the two's rivalry. Now to the Clash, February 5th, 2023. This was the second year that NASCAR would be heading out west to the LA Coliseum on the quarter-mile track there. After going winless throughout the 2022 season, Martin Truex Jr. wasted no time turning the page, opening the new year with a victory in the LA exhibition race. The win served as an early statement that the Joe Gibbs veteran driver was back in championship form. Truex carried that momentum throughout the season, consistently running up front and piling up points, ultimately capturing the Cup Series regular season championship that year. Now for an interview with driver that's in the Tulsa Shootout, Blake Hahn. Here's what Blake had to say. Next driver we bring on the Splash of Gas is out Tulsa for the Shootout, running the wing and non-winged Outlaws. He already has 9 Golden Drillers to his name. Blake Hahn. Thanks for joining the show, Blake.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, we've got a pretty busy week so far, but yeah, the business has really just begun. We're excited to get the weekend going.
Got that right. Ready to get to work. Heck yeah. Before we get into the racing action, you're from Sapulpa, Oklahoma, on the outskirts of Tulsa. What are some of your first shootout memories, and what does the race hold an importance to you for?
Yeah, so for me, it was actually my very first race. So started racing at a fairly young age. I think I was 7 when we started, right, almost 8, and started in the junior sprint class, and we got our junior sprint late in the season and ended up getting it built just in time for the shootout. So yeah, this is my first race, and a couple years after that, we were able to pick up our first driller in 2006 with the junior sprint class, and a few years after that, able to rack up 2 more in the same year with the winged outlaw, non-winged outlaw victory, and that's really what seemed like to take my career a little bit farther than I initially planned, and was able to run the Chili Bowl the next week after that.
Awesome. Thank you for touching on that. Texting with your dad, sounds like you have a lot of family out there. Your nephew is running into junior sprints. What's it like to help continue a racing legacy in your family and plus have that support?
Yeah, no, it means everything, especially for this race. With my grandpa being the founder of this event 40 years ago, it's really cool to see what it's grown into, and then to be able to race in it every year since I began racing is something that I really take pride in. It's it's the biggest micro event of the year, and to be able to come back and have some fun after running sprint cars all year long is really fun for me. And then I get to see all my friends and family out here too. And like you mentioned earlier, my nephew's racing a junior sprint now, so I'm kind of just restarting with him now in the micro scene. Run the junior sprint a couple of years, get him a restrictor fairly soon, and start making his way up through the ranking. But yeah, it makes it fun when you can do it with your friends and family. Been able to be teamed up with the 10J chassis team out of California, and been running with them for probably 6-7 years now, 5 or 6 years, and been able to pick up a win a couple years ago with them in the non-wing outlaw class, which is really good for us. We hadn't won one of the big 4 classes in a few years, so it was really nice to be able to win one with these guys after all the hard work they put in. So it's been a good last few years with them, and just really kind of gets excited to see what we can lead into.
Cool. Didn't know that about the team. That's very neat. You win the driller in 2024 in the non-wing division. That would be your 9th. You also have a long list of wins on your resume. What was it like seeing the checker flag 2 years ago?
Man, yeah, like I said, it meant a lot to me. Haven't been able to win like the main form outlaw or micro classes, being the A class, the non-wing, and the non-wing outlaw and outlaw. Those 4 classes are the big ones here. There's a lot of car count in those classes. Been able to win a few of them in the Ecotech midget, which is a kind of a beginner class midget that they had here a couple of years ago, and been able to pick up a couple of those and added a couple on the shelf. A couple drillers on the shelf with that class, and actually jumped into a mini mod one year, first time in a mini mod, and was able to pick up the victory here too. So kind of have a little variety pack of some wins here at underneath the roof, and truthfully it was just nice to be able to jump back in and be able to pick up that win with them with the non-wing outlaw again, and just prove to these guys that we can still jump in and compete in the micro.
Got it. A lot of track time. Sounds like it is out there. Awesome. No, last year's main event on the non-wing didn't break your way. After you lead more than half of the race, you've been racing a long time, but is there anything that you could take away from last year's main event?
Yeah, it just goes to show how much the track and the drivers change around and move around throughout the night. Being able to start on the front row of the A feature is definitely one step ahead of a lot of people, and it makes your night a whole lot easier. But to be able to go up there and lead 55 laps with this type of field is definitely tough. So for me, I went out there just to try to set a good solid pace early on, and I think maybe our car was a little bit better early and not as good late. But track changed tremendously through that event, and obviously racing with Kyle and Christopher, and had a bunch of other good drivers up there. You got to be up on the wheel all the time. So hopefully this year we'll be able to have a good starting position. Didn't have a great run in the non-wing outlaw today, so hopefully we can rebound fairly well with that. But looking forward to seeing what we can do in this winged heat race starting 9th. So there's definitely some room to make some good passing points and get us starting up towards the front of the A feature come Saturday. But truthfully, it all depends on how your car is, man. With how tough the competition is here anymore, it just means the world to be able to start up front and have a good car. And truthfully, racing with these guys, you got to have it all dialed in all the time.
Got it. You mentioned Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson. There's a lot of other top-notch dirt drivers, including yourself. But there's someone that's watching on TV. You mentioned drivers. There's a big car count, right? What's the level of competition like at the shootout?
Yeah, something that stands out to me is the amount of the people here. They when I was running 10 years ago with these guys, everybody had pretty decent equipment, but now everybody's just got phenomenal equipment. The equipment level is just spectacular. There's some really big teams here with the 10J guys, Factory 14, Hyper and Sawyer, and all these guys. They've spent a lot of money and a lot of time building their teams, and the competition's there. These kids are definitely some up-and-coming drivers that a lot of people have their eyes on, and to be able to see them learning and driving and coming to this track to showcase their skills is awesome. But the competition's definitely crazy. These kids have a lot of laps behind these wheels of these cars throughout the year, and makes it tough for somebody like me to just jump in and try to compete with them.
Got it. Thanks for touching upon that. Hope this next one doesn't come off as a dumb question, as I was saying, being an asphalt guy from New Jersey, not too many dirt tracks in my area. Besides the visual contrast, as a driver, what's the difference from taking the inside lane to riding the cushion? I mean, I'm sure your favorite is what get you a win, but what's really the difference in that?
Yeah, so that's something that's really unique and truthfully the most spectacular part about dirt track racing. The track's changing the whole time. So this morning we had 47, I believe 47 non-wing outlaw heat races, and from the beginning of the 47 till the end of the track changed a million times, right? So you got to keep an eye on the track. The moisture, how much moisture is down on the track, you can see that by the different levels of dirt color. Once it starts getting slick through the middle, it's hard for us to get a hold of the track. So that's when you'll see guys really migrating up to the top to make sure they've got some moisture to lean on, or they'll really be hugging the bottom. So truthfully, it's kind of funny because you'll be watching on the jumbotron and everybody will be running the bottom, and you jump out there and you think you need to be on the bottom. The next thing you know, the top's the fastest way around. So that really just goes to show the drivers that aren't afraid to try something out and risk it to lose a position to also maybe gain some. So. That's really the trickiest part about the shootout is how much the track changes. So with how many races we have, they're always doing track work and always watering and always changing the track. So the drivers, typically throughout a normal night, they're not doing a whole lot of track work throughout the night. So the track kind of progresses naturally. But here they kind of have a reset section where they'll redo the track and add some more water to it, and then you kind of reset for a little bit. So drivers have to kind of go into it with a different approach, kind of be pretty open-minded, but yet also build a notebook off the last few years. You kind of know how the track reacts once they go lay a little bit of water on the bottom or on the top, and how long it lasts. Typically it seems like they can go lay sprinkle some mist down on the bottom on the track, and it'll last for a few laps and then maybe migrate back up to the top. So that aspect of it, man, that's what makes this dirt track racing so fun. Everybody's got to use their head at all times, so it makes it really fun for everybody.
Got it. Appreciate you touch upon that, and of course everyone's racing the same track. Getting into the action from this week so far, and today was talking to you before with the finishing fourth in the non-wing heat in race 135. You'll be racing the wing outlaw shortly. How are you feeling in both?
Yeah, on practice night, truthfully, we felt a little better in the wing car right from the get-go. Didn't have near as much drive and traction as we would like in the non-wing, so we've kind of been fighting that, and we kind of had those same issues in the heat race there. So on practice night, we felt really good with the wing, so I have a lot of confidence rolling into this thing. Typically, I run a wing sprint car throughout the year, so I have a little more confidence with the wing on top of it. Not saying that we don't do good without the wing, obviously. We were able to pick up the driller a couple of years ago with non-wing, but just feel a little more at home with the wing on top. So have some good confidence there. And then we also have a good chance to make up some passing points. We're starting ninth in our heat race, and there's an opportunity to run up in the top. So if we can get a top three finish in the heat race, that should line us up to be sitting pretty well come qualifier time.
Got it. It seems like there really is such a big emphasis on those passing points, as I've been saying with the broadcast. With this year being the biggest car count, does that change anything for you for your goals?
Yeah, honestly, being nearly 500 in some of these classes, you're always having to be on kill when you come to the shootout, but it seems like you've got to be extra good this year. no mistakes. Every position matters, and you got to be going forward. So these guys, a normal night, if you could start 6th and win a heat race, that's good. But we've got guys come from 9th and 10th winning heat races. So a little bit of passing won't cut it to be starting in good position come qualifier time, and it just means everything to be able to go out there and pass cars every time you touch the track.
Got it. Thanks for going over that. At this point in your career, I'm sure it's pretty natural for you from switching to non-wing to a wing. And you mentioned that the wing is kind of your favorite. I mean, besides the obvious differences to the car, do they handle differently or pretty much the same?
They're fairly close. We have a little bit. You'd feel a little bit more of the downforce from the wing, but for me, after running a non-wing sprint car and a wing sprint car, there's a lot bigger difference there than there is on the micro. It definitely loosens the car up when you take the wing off of it. Of course, you don't have that big thing playing it down to the track. But for the most part, the setup doesn't have to change tremendously. You can make a few small changes to make up for that traction loss when you take the wing off. But truthfully, it's not that much of a difference, especially in this building here. It's a fun track to run the wing and the non-wing on.
Got it. Cool. Glad that you can go from one to the next for sure. At some of the bigger asphalt tracks and NASCAR races that I covered, drivers will sometimes talk about patience in both their cars and how they're racing their fellow competitors. With the shorter races, is that really kind of thrown out the window for you? I'm sure in the heats it is.
Yeah, absolutely. There's really no time to slack here. Every lap counts. I tend to use the phrase patiently aggressive often because it seems like you almost have to have a good mixture of both. You can't just be going full tilt from the beginning, or you get yourself caught up in some situations you don't expect. But then also you do have to kind of push the issue on some things to get up there in time. So truthfully, it's just a fine line, especially when you don't know the competitors like you typically do throughout the season. You race with guys that you race with every weekend, where here you're racing with guys you may have never heard of before. So you don't know their tendencies out on the track. So sometimes it's better to be a little more cautious when passing some guys versus just going off through there. But when you're at the shootout, you can't be waiting too long. You just pretty much have to go at all costs and just basically keep the momentum up and keep going.
Cool. Appreciate that perspective. And last question, besides winning a golden driller in each the wing and the non-wing, what are your goals as a whole for this week for you and your team?
Oh man, just to be able to grow and learn on these cars. They're really neat. Seems like for me, I only get to run them this time of the year, so every time we come back to the shootout, it seems like these guys have learned and grown so much. So for me as a driver, I got to catch up and see what these guys have been doing all year long. So for me, it's just to learn and grow and create a notebook for next year, and just continue to take every race as it is, and kind of learn from what we have. Don't get too held up on the bad runs. Just kind of learn from those and move on, and hopefully just continue to grow as we do as a team. And with this 10J team, they've been doing a really good job the last few years, giving me a good car, and they make it really enjoyable. So obviously the only reason we're all here is to win that race and to get that golden driller. So that's our main goal.
Gotcha. Thank you so much for all the detail, Blake. Really do appreciate the insight on the dirt side of things, and best of luck in both divisions the rest of this week. And we'll be cheering you on later today in the wing. All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Blake.
What great insight talking to Blake, and a competitor in this year's shootout, and someone who has a lot of experience there as well. Now for the drivers to look out for the Tulsa Shootout. As I was saying to Blake, I'm not a dirt racing expert by any means. With the top names of dirt and some NASCAR stars entered, plus with some good old research, here's other drivers to look out for. Apologize if I did miss your favorite dirt driver. We'll cover the non-winged Outlaws, which is the main event on Saturday, and which gave us the great battle last year between Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson at the end, where Bell was victorious. Let's get into it. Franklin, Indiana native Emerson Axum. Solid dirt stats with 3 golden drillers on the winged Outlaws, and was competitive in last year's main event. Of course, the guy we were just talking to, Blake Hahn. Pleasure to talk to Blake. Watching his highlights, guy's wicked fast. Already has 9 golden drillers, as we've been saying. last won in 2024. In the non-wings, he should be back up front again. Winners from 2023, TJ Smith, and 2022 winner Jeffrey Newell will be looking to get back to the top spot. Ricky Thornton Jr., one of the names on the dirt side I was actually fairly familiar with. Big name on the late model side in the World of Outlaw Tour. Snyder Jr. was up front last year before Larson and Bell got past him. Sure, he wants another chance. Clinton Boyles was in the main event last year. Seems like he had a strong run as well. Kaylee Bryson has made a name for herself in dirt racing, primarily on the USAC side. She made a couple ARCA starts last year as well. 2 NASCAR youngsters to look out for: Brexton Busch, son of Kyle Busch, and Wyatt Miller, grandson of Dale Earnhardt and son to Kelly Miller. Both look to rip it up in Tulsa. Would be surprised if one of them makes it to the main event with the raised level of competition, but we'll be watching them. Ty Gibbs, NASCAR Cup Series driver, fairly new to dirt racing, as he's been honest about. Cool watching him in the Outlaws. Kyle Busch, 2-time NASCAR Cup champ, will be in this one as well. I'm sure trying to make sure he finishes better than his son Brexton, but Busch grew up on asphalt. Cool to see him racing on the dirt. On to the next 2-time NASCAR Cup Series champion named Kyle Young Money Larson. Larson is known for his skills on the dirt side, and he will be charging after running and winning the High Limits Tour in Australia that we were just talking about. He flies right into Oklahoma. He might be a little jet lagged, but he's ready to race. Last but not least, and the guy that won last year, C-Bell, Christopher Bell, Oklahoma native, and similar to Larson, came up through the dirt ranks before the transition to asphalt. If you thought last year's shootout was crazy, with even more cars, we should be in for another great one. Now for trivia answer time. If you were paying attention earlier, I did mention the answer. This episode's question is, in this year's Tulsa Shootout, how many scheduled races are to be taking place throughout the week? Answer, between the 6 different divisions, 433 races are scheduled. Now, for our predictions for the shootout. Making predictions for the wing outlaws and non-wings. Wings, I do think Emerson Axum, Kyle Larson will be up front. But give me the Oklahoma native, guy we were just talking to. He's feeling real good in the wings. Blake Hahn to win the winged outlaws at the shootout. Now for the non-wing outlaws, will we see another duel between Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell? Not 100% sure, but with how strong he's been on the dirt track recently and just won the big high limit prize down in Australia, coming right to Oklahoma, I don't think he's going to let this one slip away. Give me Kyle Larson to win the non-wing outlaws at the shootout. Hope everyone has appreciated this episode. As always, we're sponsored by Magical Travel with Dave, aka Disney Dave Weichert, my father. He will be able to help you with all your Disney and Universal vacation needs. He can be reached at disneydavw@verizon.net. Please make sure you follow all the Splash of Gas social medias for midweek and on-track updates. Hope everyone is having a great New Year's with their friends and family, and that you get a chance to watch the Tulsa Shootout. Till next time, everybody, Splash of Gas out.